Good day, everyone. I am Teacher Michelle, and welcome to our first ever video lesson. I have here 3 words. We have could, should, and would. Let us try to use the following words in a sentence. Let us have first could. Could I speak English? Should. Should I speak English? And would. Where would I speak English? Do you have any idea on how the following words are called? Very good. Those words are called modal verbs. In this lesson, we will learn how to use modal verbs properly. Even though modal verbs are not that interesting, when we see what they are, we realize that we are using modal verbs all the time. That is why we should use modal verbs properly and correctly. We are all guided with rules and laws that we need to follow. On the first day of class, our teachers gave us the rules that we need to do, that we need to abide in the online discussion, in the online class. Let us take a look once again on what are the rules, and I want you to jot down what are the words that are being underlined. Rule number 1. All uploaded material should not be shared on any social media platform as it violates others' property rights. Rule number 2, students must be on time in submitting outputs. Rule number 3, students should virtually raise hands up in the air. Rule number 4, students must turn off the mic when the teacher is talking. And last, rule number 5, students must use one's real name in all social media accounts. Now, what are the words that are being underlined? Again, how do we call the following words? Okay, so those are the rules that we need to follow as we go along with our online classes. This time, let us go with the tips on how to prevent the coronavirus. And I want you to look closely on the words that are being underlined. Let us have the first one. We must wear a mask to protect ourselves and others. We must wash our hands frequently. We must cover our mouth or nose when coughing or sneezing. We should not touch our eyes, nose, and mouth with unwashed hands. We should clean and disinfect frequently. We should avoid contact with sick people. Let us identify what are the underlined words. We have there 2, must and should. Again, these words are called modal verbs. Okay, modal verbs is a type of auxiliary verb that is used to express ability, possibility, permission, or obligation. When we say auxiliary verb, it is a helping verb. They behave differently from regular verbs. That is why it is a little bit confusing. These are words that expresses different kinds of things. It expresses permission, obligation, and prohibition. Let's have first permission. Modal verbs that we often use to ask and give permission are can, could, and may. Let us try to use the following modal verbs in a sentence. Can I borrow your notebook? Could I borrow your notebook? May I borrow your notebook? Now, all of these sentences are correct. Maybe you're asking, what is the difference between the 3? When will I use can? When will I use could? And when will I use may? The answer depends on how polite and how formal you would like to sound. Or we can just say, it depends on the situation or the person we are speaking with. Again, we use can in asking and giving permission. Let us say, for example, can I go outside? You are asking for a permission. Of course, you will give your answer. You will give your response to your permission. Yes, you can. Another example. Can I watch movies? Can I have my bag? So those are the modal verbs that are asking permission. We also have modal verbs that are giving permission or in response to the questions earlier. Yes, you can. No, you can't. And sure, you can. So that is the modal verb that expresses permission. Remember, it is used when asking and giving permission. We have two, asking and giving permission. Next, we have the modal verb could. It is also used in permission. Use could to ask for permission. Could I ask you something? Could I have some more food? Could I bring a friend at the dinner? Remember, whenever we will be using could, we will only ask permission, but we will not give permission. You will not say, we have here, could I ask you something? You will not say, no, you could. You will not say like that. So when we say could, we will just ask for permission. Next, we also use could to say someone was allowed to do something in the past. We use could not to say that they were not allowed to do it. Say for example, we could go to any shop in the mall we wanted to. We could not study in the library after 3 p.m. In the first example, it means that they are allowed to go at any shop in the mall in the past, but maybe it is not allowed today. So that is modal verb could. Let's have the modal verb may, which is also permission. It is the most formal way to ask for and give permission. We have two. Ask for and give permission. It is the most formal way. Use may not to say that someone is not allowed to do something. May I see your passport, please? May I use a calculator on the test? May I have another piece of cake? Now, if you wanted to sound more polite, professional, and formal, you will use the modal may. Okay, to sum it up, we will compare can, could, and may. In can, it is less formal and more direct than could. It is used in asking in simple and direct ways. See, for example, can I have a question? Can we have something to drink? So again, can, it is less formal and more direct than could. Let us go for the next one, could. When being polite or wanting to show respect, could is a better choice than can. Remember, when we use could, we are only asking for permission, not giving permission. Could I ask you a question, please? Could I try this coat on? Next, we have may. May can also be used when asking permission. We have, may I use your restroom, please? May I ask what is your name? So may here is the most formal among the three. Next, let us go to the modals that expresses obligation. Next, we have, when we say obligation in English, we can use must, have to, need to, and can't. When we say the word obligation, it is a duty of commitment, which means it is something that we have to do. It is something that we have to follow or we are obliged to do. However, there is a slight difference between must to and have to. Remember, when we use must to and have to, they both expresses obligation. Let's have first have to. Have to shows us that obligation comes from outside the speaker. Okay, we have here an example. We have to wear a uniform when we are studying in school. Perhaps the rules and the general law are not from the speaker. It is outside from the speaker. It is from an external obligation. That is called external obligation because it's not coming from the speaker. Next example. We have to check everyone's ID. So whenever the guard will say, I need to check your ID, you will not get mad at them. Why? It's because it is their obligation that is from or that goes beyond with them. It is not from the speaker. We have their external obligation. Next, we have the obligation must. The obligation comes from the speaker who is speaking. Okay, here, the obligation comes from the speaker, from the person who is speaking. It expresses a strong obligation or necessity. For example, I must phone my dad. It's his birthday today. Okay, calling your dad or calling my dad comes from me. It is not from anyone else. So the obligation comes from the person who is speaking, which is me. Next example. You must hand, this is for a teacher to a student. You must hand your homework today or you will lose 10% of your mark. The obligation comes from the teacher who is the speaker. The last one we have should. Should is a weak obligation. Why? It is because it is used to give advice, telling people what you think is a good idea. It is a weak obligation compared to must. Should has a weaker effect. Say for example, you should study hard so you can pass the exam. You should see a doctor. Okay, let us have the last one, the last model that expresses prohibition. We are done with permission. We are done with obligation. So this time, this is the last one, which is the prohibition. Prohibition, these are modal verbs that is used when we want to say that something is not allowed or permitted. These situations are the opposite of giving permission. Okay, we have here the modals may and can. It is also used as negatives such as can't. Can't is the most common way to prohibit something in English. And must not and may not. Okay, So can't is not as formal as must not or may not because it's just a common one. Okay. Particularly, we did not make any rules. We did not make any rules. Okay. In can, we use can to talk about something that is against the rules. Say, for example, oh, we can't park here. Next one, you can take photos in the museum. Can't is normally used to show inability, but these examples, it shows prohibition. Okay, next, must not. Must not is the strongest way to prohibit something. To prohibit something. It is common in public signs, what we see on highways, and in notices, right? So, must not is used when talking things that are not allowed. They are prohibited and forbidden due to laws, regulations, or personal obligations. We have here, you must not use a cell phone. You must not write with pencils. So, must not are used whenever we do things that are not allowed. Okay, let's have a practice. Number one, which of the pair expresses an obligation? I am A, I must go to the dentist. B, I will go to the dentist. The answer is letter A, I must go to the dentist. Number two, which one of the pair expresses polite way of asking permission to do something? Letter A, can we go home now? Or letter B, can we go home now? The answer is letter A. Could we go home now? Okay, once again, let us recap. Modal verbs, it is a type of auxiliary verb. It is a type of auxiliary verb that is used to express ability, possibility, permission, or obligation. This lesson, we discussed permission, obligation, and prohibition. Right? Permission, asking and giving permission, expressing obligation and prohibition. So if we have any questions about our lesson this day, do not hesitate to contact your teacher if you have questions, queries, and doubts. And that is all. Thank you for listening and have a good day.